Years ago, a man and his wife were living peacefully and awaiting the birth of their first child. One night, however, he saw a loud flash through the window, followed by the screams of people outside and, fearing the worst, quickly woke his wife and filled a bathtub with water. This is one of the memories of this man who now lives in an apocalyptic world alongside his son. He doesn't remember what caused all the destruction, only the dozens of tremors that followed over the next few days, hitting the entire planet. As a result, the fauna and flora have become extinct and only a few human beings remain, while the world is slowly losing its life. The only thing left for the man and his son to do is to follow the roads, collecting as many resources as possible and watching out for gangs trying to rob other survivors. During the night, the two set up camp near the forest and the man tells his son bedtime stories. However, a huge fire suddenly breaks out in the area, forcing the boy and his father to move on. On the way, they see a stable and look for food, but instead find only bodies. Despite the frightening image, the man tells his son that this happened because some people couldn't stand what the world had become and preferred not to live in it anymore. Even though he tries to comfort the boy, he believes that sooner or later he will have to make that same difficult choice. Because of this, the man keeps a revolver with only 2 bullets in it. After leaving the stable, the man and his son spend the night in a car, but soon wake up to hear the sound of an approaching engine. Then comes the huge truck of one of the gangs, made up of guys armed with various weapons. The man quickly calls his son to hide in the forest, but one of the gang members goes to do his business there. He ends up finding the 2 of them hiding on the ground, and in response, the man points a revolver at him and tells him to be quiet, threatening to shoot him. The man tries to negotiate for his life, saying that there is food in the truck and the 2 of them can continue on their journey together. However, the man doesn't believe this, as he knows that the gang not only robs anyone who crosses their path, but also hunts humans for food. The situation becomes increasingly tense until one of the gang members finishes repairing the truck. While fixing the engine, the noise distracts the man for a minute, which is enough for the guy to grab his son and threaten him with a knife. Without hesitating, the man shoots the man in the head, but the sound of the shot is heard by the whole gang, who take off towards the forest. Carrying his son on his shoulders, he runs at full speed through the trees, until he hides near the lake, with the gang hunting them relentlessly. Hours later, the group gives up the search and the man wipes the blood on the face of his son, who cries because of this terrible experience. Even so, the 2 of them have to carry on and, while searching for food in the forest, he leaves the boy his revolver, which now only has 1 bullet. At dusk, the 2 set up a fire by the lake and the man calms his son down, saying that it happened because there are bad people in the world. Even so, they must fight for their survival, without having to hurt anyone. The next morning, the 2 continue their journey until they find a single can of soda in a machine. The man gives it to the boy, who has never tried this drink before, and the boy shares it with his father. Despite this moment of relaxation, the 2 continue looking for food, but they can't find it anywhere. Unsuccessful in their search, they rest inside a truck stopped on the road and there, the boy comments that he wanted to be with his mother. Hearing this, the man recalls his final moments with his wife, when their marriage was reaching its limit. The woman insisted that they use up the last bullets in the revolver and put an end to their suffering, but her husband refused, because he was willing to do anything to survive. His wife, however, couldn't stand it any longer and, when the couple's son fell asleep, she decided to leave. The man did his best to convince her to give up, as he knew that leaving the house would be the end of her, but she simply asked her husband to take their son south. Some believe that there, in the coastal region of the country, it is possible to find food and good people struggling to survive. Finally, despite her husband's cries and pleas, the woman leaves in the middle of the darkness and has never been seen since. The next morning, the man wakes up and looks in his wallet to find a photo of his perished wife. However, faced with the sad reality that she has given up on life and abandoned him and their son, he takes the wedding ring off his finger and leaves it on the bridge. He then takes his son to a waterfall to show him something else he's never seen before, a rainbow. After taking a dip in the lake, they continue walking and find a huge house in the middle of the field. Inside, they see several shoes around the room and a locked door on the kitchen floor. He suspects it's a cellar where the former owner's supplies are kept and goes to get an axe from inside the shed. With that, the man manages to open the passage and, on entering, the 2 find a dark basement covered in blood. To the horror of the father and his son, they see several wounded people, some of whom have had their arms and legs removed. It is then revealed that those people are the food stock of the same gang that the man met on the road. Desperate, he pulls his son to get out of there as soon as possible, only to see the gang returning home. He then hides with the boy in the bathroom and, fearing that they will both be captured, the man points the gun at his son. He knows that, if they are discovered, it is better to give the boy a dignified end, rather than let him be a prisoner of the criminals. As the man feared, one of the gang members approaches the bathroom, but everyone hears noises coming from the basement. The group goes to see what's going on and finds the prisoners trying to escape and forces them back into hiding. In the midst of the confusion, the man seizes the opportunity and flees with his son before they are discovered. Another day passes and the man hurries south, when he comes across a group of abandoned houses. One of them was where he grew up and the man begins to rummage through it, while the boy waits outside and plays with his toys. A few minutes later, the youngster starts drawing on a piece of paper, while his father falls asleep on the sofa. Soon after, the boy sees another boy, a little older, hiding in one of the houses and runs after him. He asks the young man to wait, but when he hears his son's cries, his father wakes up and asks what he's doing. The boy says he's found someone his own age, but the man insists it's dangerous and pulls him away, even though his son tries to resist. After being forced to hide from other people for so long, the boy hoped to have at least one friend to play with. However, his father knows that this is not possible and the only way for them to survive is to follow the road south, trusting no one. More hours pass and the rain begins to fall, forcing father and son to hide under a bridge. Suddenly, the man starts coughing several times, indicating that he is very ill and his condition is worsening. He doesn't know how long he has left to live, but he needs to prepare his son to survive in this desolate world when he's gone. However, his hopes are low and everything only gets worse when the two arrive at a house and, in one of the bedrooms, find a small body. This is the body of a young man who lost his life several years ago, just like so many people who have perished since the disaster. The man tries to ease the situation for his son, saying that he's seen something like this before and there's nothing to worry about. However, as soon as he gets away from the boy, the man kneels on the floor and cries, wondering if all this struggle to survive is still worth it. Shortly afterwards, he pulls himself together and calls his son over to look at an old piano he found inside the house. He starts playing and says that his wife was a great pianist in the past, but the boy has no memories of his mother playing. The two then continue looking for supplies around the house, when they find the lid of a tunnel hidden in the middle of the field. Using a stone, the man manages to remove the padlock from the lid and, on entering, he comes across a small shelter, full of food. What's more, there's a bed inside and, for the first time in days, the two of them can have a meal and rest with dignity. After eating, the boy decides to say a prayer in honor of the person who left them the shelter and the food. He asks his father to do the same and, not knowing what to say, the man just looks up and says thank you. Thanks to this find, the two can survive for longer, but the man still has to make sure that no one finds them. So he takes an old mattress he finds lying around in the field and puts it over the shelter's lid. Finally, the two have dinner together and the man puts his son to sleep next to his teddy bear. He then begins to inspect the boy's backpack and finds various objects stored inside. Although his cough continues to bother him, he is distracted for a moment when he sees the piece of the old comb that belonged to his wife. This object reminds him of the happy times they had together, before the world turned into an apocalyptic scenario. The next day, the two go to take a closer look at the house and find hygiene items such as shampoo and toothpaste. Thanks to this, the man is able to give his son a bath and look after himself after so many days on the run in the forest. This small act brings father and son even closer together, as they celebrate another peaceful day with a nice dinner. The man even finds a bottle of booze and puts it in his glass, but when his son asks him to try it, he doesn't allow it because he says the boy isn't old enough to drink it yet. Still, the drink reminds him of what life was like before the chaos. A few minutes pass and his cough comes back to torment him, and the boy asks if he's all right, but his father doesn't mention it, so as not to worry him. After dinner, the two go to rest for a while, but they hear a strange noise coming from outside the shelter. Then all is quiet again, but the man fears that it is no longer safe to remain hidden inside. The boy refuses to leave, but his father tells him to fill his backpack with as many resources as possible. At dawn, the two leave the shelter and head down the road, carrying the food in a wheelbarrow. A few minutes later, they come across an elderly man walking slowly along the road. As they approach, the man throws his backpack on the ground and asks them not to steal it, as he has nothing valuable to hand over. The man realizes that the old man can't see properly, which only makes his son feel more sorry for him. The boy offers to give him some food and, despite being against the idea, his father accepts and sends him a can of fruit. As well as being almost blind, the old man walks around aimlessly wearing a mixture of leather and wood as shoes, glued together with a plastic bag. His situation makes the man feel empathy for the first time in a long time and he invites the old man to join them for dinner that evening. The gentleman accepts and introduces himself as Ely, a traveler who claims to be 90 years old, so that the criminals don't try to rob him. Finally, the three arrive in the forest, build a fire, and the man prepares a meal for everyone. Despite the old man's condition, he still doesn't trust him completely, and, as soon as his son goes to sleep, he puts the prepared weapon aside. Even with the man's distrust, he is grateful for the help, especially from the boy, who has been the only one to treat him well all this time. The old man confesses that he also once had a son, but after the disaster he lost him and no longer talks about it. The man asks if, the way things are going, he wishes he were no longer alive, but the old man replies that this is not the way to go, because even in dark times, there are reasons to live. Another day passes and the old man leaves, but before he does, the man and the boy have filled his backpack with some of the supplies. After that, the two of them continue on their way through the forest, when they come across a hut, with its field stained with blood and scattered bones. It seems that this place is the base of another gang, which soon appears, hunting down a woman and her son. Helpless to do anything, the man and the boy hide in the forest, but another earthquake starts, knocking down the surrounding trees. The two run for their lives and narrowly miss being hit by a huge log that falls in front of them. The boy is frightened, but his father helps him up and the two go in search of another hiding place. They end up in the ruins of a cathedral and the boy soon falls asleep, but in the morning, he wakes up to hear his father coughing. His illness is rapidly worsening, to the point where he is coughing up blood, leaving the boy worried. But just like the other times, he tells his son not to worry and just to keep going. After a few more hours of walking, they reach the coast, where they find a dark beach with a polluted sky, littered with the bodies of sea animals washed up by the tide. The two of them camp nearby, but this time, the boy also starts to feel ill and his father notices that he is burning up. The man does his best to help his son feel better and the boy asks what his father would do if he didn't survive. The man doesn't want to think about that possibility, but if it were to happen, he says he would have no reason to live and would end everything in order to join the boy. The day dawns and the man sees a huge ship close to the shore and decides to swim there in search of more resources. The boy waits in the camp, but ends up falling asleep and doesn't notice when a mysterious man armed with a knife approaches. Shortly afterwards, his father returns with a bag, including a flare gun, but the guy has taken everything in the camp. Fortunately, he didn't attack the boy, who only wakes up after all the supplies have been stolen. With his cough getting worse and having to carry his son in his arms, the man sets off in search of the thief and finds him on the road. He then pulls out his revolver and threatens to shoot the man, who defends himself by holding his knife. The boy begs his father not to shoot him, but the man forces the thief to drop the knife and take off all his clothes. The guy tries to argue, saying he did it all because he was hungry, but the man doesn't care and forces him to get rid of everything. Soon after, he takes the cart back and complains to his son that he was careless and could have been eliminated by the thief. However, the boy criticizes his father for his aggressive attitude and that the guy just needed help. These words make the man feel guilty and he goes back to the place to return the clothes, but he doesn't find the guy around. Nevertheless, he leaves his things on the road, along with a can of food. Later, the man and the boy continue walking until they come across a destroyed neighborhood. In the middle of the street, the boy sees a metal lid and on top of it is a small beetle, which miraculously is still alive. The insect flies away and the two are surprised to see another living creature after the disaster, but are soon interrupted when an arrow is fired at them. The shot ends up hitting the man in the leg, who quickly hides with the boy behind the cart. He realizes that the arrow came from the window of the house in front of him and fights back, firing a flare gun through the window. He then runs into the house and realizes that there was a couple living there, who shot him because they thought he was a gang member. Unfortunately, the shot from the flare gun took him out and his wife cries beside his body. Unable to do anything else, the man goes back to his son and hurries to find another hiding place so that he can remove the arrow stuck in his leg. With great effort, he uses a pair of pliers to remove the arrowhead, but this only makes his condition worse. After bandaging up, he heads south with his son, but his illness reaches its limit and he coughs up even more blood. With no strength left to continue, he stops in front of the beach and the boy helps him to lie down. He tries to give his father food and water, but the man knows that his end is near and asks the boy to keep going, using everything he has learned along the way. The boy doesn't want to see his father go and asks the two of them to continue traveling together. However, the man asks his son to trust only good people. The night goes on and the boy ends up sleeping, while the man looks up, enjoying his final moments. At dawn, the boy wakes up and calls for his father, but he doesn't answer. He keeps calling him, asking him to wake up, but his father didn't resist and lost his life during the night. The son cries in front of his father's body and, throughout the day, just stays by his side, thinking about what to do. The next day, the boy decides to obey his father's request and, taking his revolver, He tucks it into his shirt and walks along the beach. Suddenly, an unknown man armed with a shotgun begins to approach the boy. Fearing it might be another gang member, the boy pulls out his gun and points it in the stranger's direction, but he says he doesn't intend to hurt him. The boy is still suspicious and asks if he is one of the good people his father talked about. The guy says yes and tells the boy to follow him because he and his family are going to a safe place. With no other choice, the boy agrees to go, but first he goes to his father's body to say goodbye, promising to talk to him every day. Finally, the boy goes up to the man, who introduces his family, made up of his wife, 2 children and a dog. The woman then reveals that she had seen the boy and his father traveling together and was eager to meet them to offer help. Seeing that he has indeed found good people, the boy agrees to go with his new family. Thanks to his father's love and resilience, the boy discovered that, even in a destroyed world, there is still reason to believe in human goodness.